Hey, what's going on? My name's Adrian. Welcome back to the channel. Still plugging away at my 99 Saleen Mustang build. It's definitely coming along slowly but surely. So next up on the list, I'll be putting in a Maximum Motorsports 4-point roll bar. I actually bought it quite some time ago. It's been just sitting in storage for quite a while now. I just had to get through a bunch of other stuff first, but here we are. It's ready to go in. I'm pretty excited. So I ended up going with the 4-point bolt-in style roll bar with the removable harness bar. It's just to go this route for a couple of reasons. Number one, the 4-point roll bar will be completely functional and it will be used as intended. But let's be real here. For me, a large part of it has to do with the look of the roll bar itself. I always thought a car with a roll bar, roll cage in it looked completely badass, and I've got the whole car gutted out, so I thought, what the hell, why not? Two, I really wanted to keep it bolt-in just because, let's face it, I never had a car with a roll bar or roll cage in it. This is still a street car, so I wanted the option of having it removable just in case, I don't like it or I don't want it anymore. And I mean, the car's gonna be rigid as hell as it is. It's got the upper subframe connectors, the lower subframe connectors. It's gonna get those Stifler's rocker braces that tie in the subframe to the rocker rails as well. So this roll bar is just, in addition to all of that. Don't get me wrong, I mean, the 4-point bolt-in is gonna be fully functional. It's gonna do what it's supposed to do. I really don't intend on rolling this car, so hopefully I won't ever have to find out and put it to the test, but I do have a few ideas on mounting the main hoop in and making it a little stronger, and yet still be able to remove the bar if needed. But we'll just have to wait and see. Anyways, that's pretty much it. Cut to the video. So I managed to get the main hoop roughly into place. Don't mind some of the surface rust on here. I've had the cage sitting in my basement for a while. I got it from Maximum Motorsports during their Black Friday sale. So yeah, this install has been a long time coming. Next, I'm just gonna get the rear supports in, and it should be pretty simple with this design. What I mean by that is they've got this sleeve on here that essentially centers up the rear support bars. So you just slip them over the sleeve and then the bar is perfectly centered. You just run a bolt through this hole here to keep everything locked into that position. So when you take the cage out to weld the rear bars in, nothing moves. And yeah, even though it's a bolt-in cage, you still have to weld the rear support bars into place. So these are the rear support bars. We've got them labeled already, so it's pretty easy to figure out. Like I said, these do get welded in. But to keep everything in place for now, just line up these holes on the bar with the sleeve on the main hoop, and then you just run a bolt through it and tighten everything down. So when you take the cage out to weld it, everything is in its right place. cage obviously comes with all the hardware you need to bolt it into place. I think these longer bolts are the ones for the rear supports that I need, so I'll just go ahead and run those through. So I've got the main hoop centered and pretty much where I want it to be. All the gaps seem pretty good on both sides, so I've kind of locked in the main hoop with some pry bars and screwdrivers using the through-floor subframe connectors. But I've run into my first issue. The problem has to do with this mounting hole here. If you follow the build, you'll already know that I've installed some pinch weld rocker rails on the underside of the car. And unfortunately, this hole is actually directly in the path of that rail. The rail is right up against the rocker pinch welds and measures about 1 inch, which is right at the edge of the hole. So my first thought was maybe I just drill through the rail and get a longer bolt at the bottom. Not a terrible idea since the rocker rail is tied to the chassis in multiple spots. The problem, however, is now that the cage is perfectly centered, that mounting hole is sitting right at the edge of the rail, give or take. So if I was to drill through, it could end up right at the very edge of the rail underneath and take out material from the sidewall of the actual rail, basically where the rail gets all its strength from. So that's a no-go for me. So the easiest solution I came up with is to drill a hole next to the existing one. So I'm actually going to drill to the right of the hole, pretty much right beside the existing one. I can't drill to the left to center the hole through the rail because there's just way too little material left on this base plate. So I'm going to weld up the original hole and then measure and drill out the new one. That way I can fit the backing plate directly beside the rocker rail on the underside of the car and then fit all the bolts through no problem. The backing plate on the underside is going to be so tight up against the rocker rail that I'll be able to actually weld the plate to the rail for added strength. I may even try to make a bracket that runs across from the rocker rail to the subframe connector and weld that directly to the backing plate. That would be super strong and that would probably be the most ideal, but we'll see. So here I've marked a rough idea of where the new hole will be, but I'm going to weld up the old hole first with the help of this copper backing plate I got from Eastwood. Get good heat in there without worrying about blowing out the weld. So I've got the holes filled on the base plate for each side. We've got the welds ground down, ready to mark the new hole. I'm actually going to use this backing plate as a template to mark the new hole since one of the holes. Alright, back to what I was saying. The hole in the back here is actually offset more inward than the hole that I welded up on the base of the main hoop. As you can see on the backing plate, the top left hole gives me exactly the offset that I need for the new hole. So I'm just going to line it up with the edge of the plate, make sure it's in line with the other hole to the right, and then mark my new hole. And just drill everything out and install the backing plate underneath. both sides are bolted in with the backing plate installed underneath. They're not fully tightened because it has to come out yet again, but tight enough just to keep everything in place so I can mark the back holes in the wheel wells for the rear support plates. Now I'm just going to use a center punch to mark out the holes in the wheel wells, and then the cage can come out. We've got the 4 holes drilled out and they line up perfectly with the threads on the base plate. Next thing to do is get the backing plate on there and try to center the plate over the 4 holes. The key is to have it contour to the shape of the wheel well, and then you also have to center it to have enough material on each corner. You don't want to drill the holes too close to the edge of the plate, so you want to center the plate over the 4 holes as best as you can, and then just get someone to mark it on the other side. I've already got my wife to mark it, so it's already done. I did the passenger side as well. Now I'm just going to take these and just drill out all the holes. Then it's just a matter of lining up all the holes and sending the bolts through. Well, there it is. Roll bars in. Looks great. Unfortunately, it all has to come back out again for final welding of the rear support bars, and then get it painted or powder coated. Haven't really decided yet. I'm actually getting real close to painting the inside of the car, so I'm gonna get everything cleaned up, prepped for paint, seam sealer, all that stuff. Yeah, it's getting close, man. It's not much left. I'd say the restoration phase is completely done. The chassis modification is pretty much done, other than those Stifler's braces that I'm gonna weld in. And then it's gonna get sent off for paint. So I'm gonna leave it there, and I'll see you on the next one.